Just testing.
Okay.
No issues logging on?
Nope.
Okay, great. Okay, our tech team is watching. That's good.
Okay.
So we can monitor the situation. Okay, great.
Where are the other folks?
I guess logging in at 7:05.
Okay.
Other folks going to be on the live tonight is going to be Dr. D. Dr. D. Dazon's going to be here. Ms. D is going to be here. We're going to also have Michelle from In Our Own Voice. Do you know Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to also have Amy, who's our If, When, How legal fellow from Sister Love, but there might be some tech issues there. So.
Okay.
A couple more minutes and we'll get started.
Sure.
Hey, Ms. D, everything working for you? Hey, there you are.
I think Bryson had to let. Hey,
Hey.
I hope it is. If y'all can hear me. Hey,
Yeah.
Dr. T.
Hey, what's going on? 2 days in a row.
How about that?
How late did you all stay on last night?
3 and a few more. Not long, child. Once I realized it wasn't going to be Michigan, Wisconsin, or PA, I was like, yep, see y'all in the morning.
Yeah, I couldn't do it anymore.
How long did y'all stay on the chat last night?
Too long.
Probably after midnight.
Woo. Okay, I almost made it.
It might have been not too much longer than that. Yeah, you almost made it. What am I doing? My entire screen. I'm not sharing anything.
So on the internet, they said it shows that Biden has 264 votes, but on CNN they say he only has 253.
That's because they're keeping the suspense. I mean, they're keeping the suspense. It's not real because what I've been following, even from last night, I think I was telling y'all that the AP wire was ahead of all the networks, right?
Yeah.
So the AP, and actually they were behind me because they had not migrated Michigan over. They were still at 248 when all the networks were still at 237. And I was like, we're at 264. They need to go ahead and give him Arizona or Maine or Minnesota.
Well, Nevada needs to come on through because if he's at 264, they got the 6 votes he needs.
You're trying to get ahead of me, huh?
Oh, sorry.
No, we good. We're on now. It's 7:05. It's popping. It's popping. Y'all welcome. I'm sorry.
I just said let's rock.
Let's get it. So y'all welcome to Sister Love. We are having a conversation about the day after, and we thought it was going to be the day after. It's still the day of, okay? So the election is still pending and still underway, and I don't care what the situation is. Trump went out there and told people that he won the election. And it's just like, girl, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So I have a few questions, but before I get into the questions, I'm gonna let you lovely ladies introduce yourselves and we'll get straight to it.
You gotta tell us what to do.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining.
Hi. Can you all see me?
We can see and hear you.
Okay.
Yes, looking good. Looking good.
Hi.
Can you see us?
The what?
Can you see us?
I can.
Awesome.
I can see you. You all look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
My sister Love gear today.
I
Grateful.
know. That's my favorite shirt.
I put on a fancy blouse for you all today.
Look,
I got my
let me
And
just
a
say,
little lip rouge.
and I know we just doing a little kiki as we get on before we get going, but I truly was cute today, wasn't I, Sister Tia? I actually had
You
all my.
was. Where your
Get your
purple
face on too.
Let me tell you what happened. See, the dog just took over, and it was like, okay, I will walk you. And so I had to get out of my clothes and put these on, and I was struggling to get that big monster down the street. And my tenant saw me and said, "Hey, Miss D, I'll walk," and rescued me. So I came, and that's why I'm here on time. So
Okay.
hello,
Glad to have you. Glad
You
to
know,
have you. Y'all
see-
wanna
tell all of that because in the midst of all of this chaos and madness, everyday life still goes on. I'm in my 30s.
world is still turning.
nice.
So do y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves for our audience? We got folks watching, we got folks interacting with us in the chat. Shout out to Michelle Harris saying hello, everybody. Want to start with our guest, Dr. Tony?
Greetings, everybody. I am Dr. Tony Bond. I am an independent scholar, have been in the reproductive health rights and justice movement for 30-something years and am a strong follower and supporter of Sister Love and am one of the 12 Black women who coined the term reproductive justice in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a religious scholar, a womanist ethicist, and a reproductive justice activist. And I'm glad to be here.
All right, Michelle, you want to go next?
Sure. It's an honor to be on this panel with you all. I'm Michelle Batchelor, and I am the VP of Government Affairs for In Our Own Voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda. I have been in the game for probably 20 years. And my background, I've done a little of everything. HIV, so I've had the pleasure of working with Dazan for many years. I've done domestic and global HIV. I have worked at a city health department, so I have survived that. And I'm very passionate about mental health and mental well-being, and hope that in my next chapter, that's really where I can focus and really destigmatize mental health.
Right on, Michelle. Thank you for being here. Good to have you here. And Ms. D?
Sure. Hey, I am Dazan Dixon Jallo. I'm part of Sister Love. I'm founder and president. I'm a co-founder of Sister Songs. So I'm one of those godmothers of the sexual reproductive health rights and justice movement, from only a few months behind Tony and them coining what they brought to the rest of us in the world. I am, founder and president of Sister Love and Sister Love International South Africa, where we also do our work. And I'm also a host of Sisters Time Women Speak on WRFG Atlanta, 89.3 FM, and on the World Wide Web, .wrfg.org, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Atlanta time. And I've been in this work. Ooh, does the volunteer part count?
Yes.
Because, in the early days of the feminist movement, there was no salary, there was no pay, there was no income, there was just involvement, engagement, activism. So I would say I've been in this now, 36 years, and I don't mind because I was 7 months old when I started. So it's all good. And I'm grateful to be here this evening because, I would have a different look on my face if we had a different outcome today. So this is a different conversation that I'm grateful for us to be able to have, because it's still about the work. It's still about the fight. It's still about all areas and the intersections of justice that we still have to struggle with and get beyond and resolve and end a whole lot of madness that still drives the kinds of shenanigans that we're still even seeing right now. And so that's why I'm grateful to be here and have this conversation. And thank you, Tia, for hosting us. And you going to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So as y'all can see, we got some heavyweights here tonight, and I am a peewee in comparison. I am the new policy and advocacy program manager at Sister Love. I just a little bit about my background. I was a housing advocate in Miami, Florida, as an Equal Justice Works Fellow, graduate of the University of Miami School of Law. I am so happy to be a part of Sister Love, and this is my third month on the journey, and I've been learning so much, and I believe in this fight, right? Because not just fighting for our rights, these are rights that pertain to me, right? And I'm just happy to be here with y'all, and I appreciate all the work y'all have been doing and the work that you've laid for young feminists like me to be able to come up in this work and get paid. So thank you. So first, I want to get into it first with some announcements for people living in DeKalb County. And just in general, if you did a mail-in ballot, we put this statement on our website. Please, visit sisterlove.org to check our statements. But there has been 20,000 rejected ballots that need to be cured/corrected by Friday, November 6th. Some of the common issues that causes this to happen is, an invalid signature or a change of address. So I ask you all to take a little bit of time to check the status of your mail-in ballot. On our website, we do have a link to where you can do that. And we also have a set of instructions about how to do that. So please take a little bit of time if you did vote by mail-in ballot to take some time and take a look at that. And we're going to jump into a few questions about what's going on in this election today. And I want to thank all of our audience members for joining us and for being here. And the first question I have for you ladies tonight is a sort of a softball. I watched the election, part of it, right, last night with two of you. I am interested to know what surprised you and what didn't surprise you about what's going on in 2020's election. I guess we can start in order if you want, Dr. Tony.
I'm not surprised. Nothing surprised me. I expected Tad to do what he did. I call him Tad. And which stands for the Trumpian authoritarian apocalyptic dictatorship. So I expected that he would do what he did. And I actually expected it to take some time. I did not expect to get a result last night. I knew that today was going to be the day after the election day, right? Mm-hmm. And that we may not know anything actually until maybe Friday. So I kind of expected this. I can tell you what I hoped for. My hope was that that the folks in this country would vote for a moral shift with their vote. And I think that's what we're seeing.
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't watch. That's why I didn't join you all last night, because I don't know. Maybe there was a part of me that, didn't have high expectations, but I will say, I monitored and looked at it, and I think I was surprised, and I shouldn't have been, but I was surprised, not necessarily about the executive, not necessarily about the presidential election, even though I thought we were going to do, like, it was just going to be so obvious, so blatant, because we were so mobilized and the energy was just so, and so I think today I'm wondering, like, am I in such a bubble that I didn't get? Because I felt the energy. I felt like all right, we got this. There's not going to be any way he can contest this because it's going to be so, runaway. And so now I'm wondering, was I being naive? I think what surprised me though was the Senate, the House of Representatives, state. I mean, you all are going into a runoff. I mean, we lost 2 seats in the House and we thought we were going to gain seats in the House. We thought we were going to be the majority in the Senate. And right now we just barely broke even. We got 1, lost 1. And so that's really where I was surprised. Like, and I feel foolish. Like I underestimated the division in the country. I underestimated. And so I'm, now I'm doing my own, like, do I need to like expand my, my circle? So, cause am I out of touch? So I think I'm going through the stages of grief, like, trying to rationalize and I don't know, but that's kind of my take on it.
I actually had a similar one too. I actually said that yesterday that maybe it's because I was in Miami-Dade before and then here in Atlanta, both blue counties. I don't know why. I didn't think that this was going to be as hotly contested and as close as it is. I'm just like, are y'all serious right now with these votes? This is what we doing, America. But whatever, Misty.
Yeah. So the first answer to the question about what surprised me was myself. I surprised myself because I knew I should have come in more jaded. I knew I should have come in a little bit less expecting that same thing that Michelle just talked about, or that Toni came in with her own reality. And I realized, because I've talked about this recently a lot, because it's just come to me, is that I don't know if I want to call it the bubble, because I consider myself, well, maybe I am. I live in a Black privileged life. Okay. And what I mean by that, and I'm talking about almost, not all, but almost all my life, a Black privileged life. I was born in a small Black college town. I came and went to an HBCU in a Black city. I worked and started my whole pathway in this work through, the founding of the Black Women's Health Movement, worked in feminist space, and then with Sister Love being 31, I've been working in Black space for 31 years. And so I know what I knew in my own sphere, the energy, the anger, the expectation, the mobilization, the organizing, the hope, all that Black women power coming to fore. I knew all of that. What surprised me was that I was still deeply optimistic and deeply despondent when the news started coming in. And that really surprised me, because I thought I was prepared better, and I think I should have been prepared better, because normally I'd have been able to sit up all night and just cuss at the TV and watch that stuff happen. And I got to a point where I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just going to have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. Believe I'll run on, see what the end's going to be. So anyway, what I think was then when, I woke up and I was like, you know what? No matter, I think who wins this, what we've shown is that this country is willing, not this country, the supporters of Tony's Tad and my SCOTUS, which is the so-called ruler of the United States, that
I'm dead.
These followers, these sycophants, these, cult victims of his are so invested in their whiteness and in their misperceived sense of privilege that they will destroy this democracy to save that illusion of superiority and power, because they sold an illusion. And that's what's real. And that's why the fight still goes on. And it goes on because that just what has happened has only showed us how much more fragile we are. as a democracy, as a country, as a place of all of these people from everywhere else. And that we ain't mad enough and we ain't fighting hard enough, and we're missing the real point of why we have to participate in the civil leadership and governance of our country, because the power truly is supposed to be ours, the people. And we keep giving it up and giving it up. And that's what I'm not accepting anymore. We can't keep giving it up.
Well, that's why I said my hope was that we would see through the voting a moral shift in this country. The reason I wasn't surprised, and I would, I don't say, I wouldn't call it being jaded, but in my 55 years, I've seen a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was raised in Chicago, one of the most segregated cities in the country. Mm-hmm. And now living in Nevada and watching all of the Trump supporters riding up and down the street in their trucks with their flags saying, "Make America great again." And as I saw that and just reflected back over the year, I was like, you know what? This Pandora's box has been opened. And white supremacy and racism has been allowed to run rampant. It's not that it didn't exist in this country, it's always existed. But it's as if they have been given permission to be as mean and hateful and as evil as they want to. And the reason I went into yesterday, like not surprised, and it's not that I didn't have expectations, I had hopes. Mm-hmm. But the reason I went into yesterday like that was because I thought, it's going to be really hard to put that evil back up. Even if our leadership looks different, it's going to be really hard to put that evil back in the box. And the last thing I'll say, what really made it just so profound for me, I was at the grocery store the day before yesterday, and this Latina sister was checking me out. And she says, "You be safe going home." And I was like, "Well, thank you. You too." And she says, "No, I mean, tomorrow's election day." And she said, "People like you and I will be safer in the house." And I was like, wow. Wow. And so I think we have to be, I don't think it's that we're not as active and we're not as engaged. Maybe not. But I think, our folks have been active and engaged. I've watched the mobilization. But I think this evil that has been let out of the box is so rampant and so large that, we will be dealing with this for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw something on social media to that point saying that, racism never existed, right? It just kind of gave people this administration gave people the courage to come out and be upfront with it, where they had to keep it under their hat a little bit more than they are now. And I want to just take this opportunity to interact with the comments here. Michelle says the world is evil and we're taking the high road. Like Michelle Obama said, we have to take the gloves off and fight on their level. To that point, I want to, Michelle, I see that you were going to speak. I was going to give you, your time to, say what you like, and I have a question for y'all.
Yeah, no, I was just, what Tony was saying, because I have been thinking about that and having some conversations, because, I mean, this level of hate, like when I was watching last week, I don't know if you all remember the video of the Biden-Harris bus being chased.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm like, if this were just in black and white, this would be 1950 something and them going after freedom riders. Mm-hmm. I think the difference, now everything is televised, including our resistance. Right. And that, I think, scares them to death. And that's, I attribute some of the escalation to the fact that they're more scared than ever. And I think they should be, because we're not going back in the box either. I don't want to be, too dramatic, but I mean, there has to be a day of reckoning. And I just think, I don't know how we any of us go back from here. And I don't have the foresight to know how we go forward, but I do know we are going forward, and the status quo is no longer okay for any of us.
Anybody, 100.
I think if I can, it's two things with Michelle and Tony. There's this: they shouldn't be afraid, but they don't know how to do anything else, because what is happening is, as a people, they will go on. As a people of white, patriarchal driven privilege, they will not go on. And so that's what they're afraid of, because they don't know anything else and they don't know how to be any other way. And so there's a couple of things, and it's not up to Black and brown and other folks that are not white to teach them. It is up to folks who have already made up their new day and their new decision to show up in a different way as people of human descent that happen to look different from other people of human descent. Seriously. And the fact that Black, brown, young, and female people will be the majority of this country within the next 25 or so years scares the everything out of them, right? And so what we have is, this was another, and I'm just going to say it because it's not over, this is another blip in their 70, 100-year strategy, right, to hang on no matter what to that white power minority rule, period. And all you have to do is follow the patterns of what took place in South Africa and in Zimbabwe and in Namibia, where their only way to get there was to literally commit genocide against the people, right? And to wholesale move them, and then with violence hold them in containment and not educate them, right? To dumb down the national, to make law less relevant, right? To make voting, or to even make representation less relevant. And that's what we've got now. It's sort of like the rule of law doesn't matter. The Constitution is just something these old guys wrote up a long time ago, that, we have to preserve the policing system that we have, because we have to preserve the criminal system, justice, or the injustice system, and the prison industrial complex, because that's the only way we can preserve slavery. Y'all, this could go on. And it is not hyperbole, Michelle. I don't think you're being too dramatic. I think this is the reality, that when we talk about being woke, that's what being woke is. So when we go forward, it means that we have to learn that what the power did this time to thwart that movement against us. And now how do we take that power and the fact that we know we're growing in numbers, and be prepared to lead and be empowered to be the majority that holds the control? How are we preparing to do that? Because if we're not prepared to do that, we're going to cede it to them because we think they know better how to do it, because they've been doing it for 250 years anyway.
Right.
And to all of y'all's point, do y'all see a silver lining here, right? This kind of overt and blatant sort of disregard for minorities, queer folk, trampling on people's rights to keep this sort of system up and going. Is the silver lining here that because it's showing its face, that we have an actual overt enemy to fight? Because one of the dangers of covert racism is that it's easy to gaslight. It's easy to say that this isn't existing, this isn't happening. So when you see things like, Michelle, you mentioned, this is being televised. Police shootings, for example, is being televised on social media at an alarming rate. It's not that this hasn't been happening. There's just a faster way for it to in quicker way to show it to the public, to the world. Do you guys think that maybe the fact that this is being brought to the forefront of the nation's conscience is setting a stage for it to be resisted effectively and overwhelmingly? And what do y'all think the implications are in this election in the years coming for this sort of resistance? Oh, I want to also acknowledge folks in the comments as well. Lapina, Sequoia, we see y'all. Michelle, we see you. We're going to get to y'all's comments. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We're going to get to y'all's comments, very interesting ones in just a moment. I want to give the panelists a chance to answer the question. I hope I put it clearly to y'all.
The squad got reelected.
Hey.
Nikema Williams is filling the 5th district seat vacated by the passing of John Lewis. Cori Bush won her seat as the first Black woman out of Missouri in her district to go to Congress. And she was a Black Lives Matter movement activist during the whole Ferguson uprising. Yes, there's a silver lining, and then right beyond that, there's a gold lining, and right beyond that, there's a platinum lining, because if we keep our eyes on the prize, we get there. And the other thing is all of these people I just mentioned are all women of color. And so when we center all of this power in Black and brownness and in womanness, in all of our diversity, so that we're including my trans and non-gender conforming family as well, and all identities, when we bring all of that to the floor and we recognize that where the center of this power is coming from, there's plenty of linings in front of us. And there's plenty of struggles too, but there's plenty of linings through those fights.
Well, and I want to add one more person as a part of that silver lining. Jessica Gonzalez Rojas won her seat.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
That's a reproductive justice ticket right there, y'all.
Yes.
I definitely think that there's a silver lining, and that silver lining, that's that, for me, that sweet spot that will be there no matter who would win, right? And I'm thinking about the late Dr. Katie Cannon, and she said that we have to do the work your soul must have. And I know that that's what we will always do. Black women will have always done the work that their souls must have. And we will do that whether it's Tad or whether it's somebody else. And so that's what makes me hope. What, right?
We still have to do the work.
Right. We still have to do the work our souls must have, because let us not forget that we are still in the midst of a pandemic that is growing exponentially. And the communities, the constituents in the communities that we work with are suffering at the end of the day. So there's still a lot of work for us to do that our souls must have at the end of the day. And so that makes me hopeful, because I know that that's what our movement has always done. We always rise to the occasion. So that makes me hopeful. And when I think about the silver lining, that's part of the silver lining.
Absolutely. I wanted to turn to the comments here. We have two that go hand in hand. Lapina says, in Florida, the Latinx community in Miami has shown large support for Donald Trump. And Sequoia says, identity politics has come front and center in this election, with Trump gaining support in Latinx communities and with Black Americans. These are the highest numbers Black folks and Jewish folks have voted Republican in over 20 years. In y'all's expertise and in y'all's experience, have y'all seen anything like this? And why do y'all think this is happening, that folks who are targets of this administration seem to be supporting him?
You know, I was just talking about this today, because I'm curious. I haven't, and I don't think they're out yet to know the breakdown, because we remember in 2016, I think, maybe I'll speak for myself, was caught off guard by, Black men. What was it? 20-something% Black men voted for Trump.
13% Black men.
It was double digits. I don't know if it was 20, but it was up there.
I think it was 13% Black men.
13, okay. And Latinx, I think, was 36. And then, of course, we had white women educated. And so I'm really curious. I don't know. I'm going to, call on Sequoia if she puts in the chat what she knows, because I'm really curious, because everything I was hearing, which now I am inclined not to believe any of it, going into the election was we were worried about men of color in particular. And so, you know, I don't know. I would want to hear from you all. What is that attributed to? You know, we know that, or we believe that economics, race, and one other thing I'm blanking on right now kind of led, it wasn't COVID like we thought it would be. Maybe it was just healthcare generally, were like the big things that they were assuming people were voting on. Are men voting economics? Like all of us, it matters. Like you just said, I mean, people haven't had any COVID relief funds since July. And so, you know, economics matters. Our health matters because we are impacted disproportionately by COVID, HIV, heart disease, and the quality of care we get. If I heard a quote the other day that said that a doctor is to Black women what the police are to Black men. And I was just like, wow, okay. I think that was on Trevor Noah. But anyway, so I am curious to know what you all think about what we know, because I don't know yet how the numbers fall out. But
I don't think this is the only thing, but I do think that it's real. And I'm not trying to be too oversimplistic, but I'm to some degree a little bit of a linguist, and I'm in communications. And what I do know is that disinformation and propaganda, false propaganda, right, is real. And it has reach, especially when people are open and desperate for something that speaks to them. And you just go right in, even as it's the biggest, most, you know, outrageous lies. The other thing, though, is that there is such a thing as gaslighting people. And when you are already in these deep places of, you know, I don't know if it's trauma, but questioning or not completely affixed to what the realities are versus what your desires or perceptions are of how things actually work, then you're going to believe what comes along. And I think that in a lot of ways, being stuck with two parties is a huge problem that's going to have to get addressed at some point. I mean, you know, so many more governments have much bigger pluralistic societies where there are multiple numbers of parties so that there's multiple numbers of voices. Latinx people are not monolithic. Black people, Black men are not monolithic. There's, for as many of them as there are, that there could at least be 5 or 6 different political ideologies that would represent them and have a voice. But in this kind of republic we've been forced into this dichotomous society where everything is either bigger or smaller or best or worse or Black or white or blue or red. I mean, it's and that we can break that up once we start dealing with diversity in a real way, that when we really mean diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, all of that, when we really put it to play, then we'll start making room for more political ideologies so that we're not caught up in this, you know, worst of two evils, or the lesser of two evils, which is where a whole lot of people ended up voting this time, as they do almost every time. I mean, they showed up this time. Last time they didn't even show up because they didn't want Hillary, right? So I can't say what anything else is about, but I'll be honest, I still can't answer why all of those people drank the Kool-Aid down there with Jim Jones, right? So we can go as far as we want into the psyche, but there's some places where people are just going to go along because something sounds good to them and they want to believe it. They just want to believe it, because you cannot want to believe that somebody is actually that depraved and miscreant and so autocratic. And I think, for example, the shock because of the election, but the real shock of Amy Coney Barrett's nomination and confirmation on the Supreme Court has not nearly hit people yet. I don't even, especially my young people, I don't think we have not even fathomed the coming damage that move that happened under, what do they call him? Moscow Mitch, that Mitch McConnell has done to this country, and, you know, basically destroying the dignity and the will and the power of the Senate all with him. Just take it down.
That's what I say. I don't think the courts would be so bad if we could write legislation. So, you know, the court, you know, Supreme Court, you know, circuit courts, you all take away abortion, we'll write new legislation for abortion. You take away healthcare, we'll write. But if we don't have Congress, sorry, Tony, you were saying something.
No, that's all right. No, finish. Were you done? Oh, okay. So I think it's all of what you all said, and I also think it's they drank the Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And for some, I think they thought they were voting their economic interest. If we look at some celebrities whose names I'm not going to mention, but I think they thought they were voting their economic interest. I remember in 2016, I was at the gas station one time, and this brother, you know, was standing, you know, on the other side pumping his gas too. And he said, "How about that election?" And I said, "How about it?" He said, "Well, I casted my vote for Trump." I said, "Really?" And why is that? Well, because he has the interest of small business at heart. I said, "You think?" And so I think that there's some of that. I also think that we cannot sleep on the impact of religion and people voting their religious interest too. And people, you know, voting, you know, because they think that there will be a run on Roe v. Wade, an attack on LGBTQI communities and marriage and trans rights and all of that. I think that is a part of it too. And I raise that because oftentimes we continue to sleep on the impact of religion in this. And religion is, I think, a key part of why they may have voted the way that they voted.
And folks in the comments are agreeing with y'all. Tony, I see you here. Thanks for joining us. Holly says celebrity, the fact that Trump's a celebrity and the belief that Trump is a rich, self-made man is why I think votes still came in for Trump. Excellent point. And to the respectability politics point that we're all sort of moving toward, Michelle Harris, and I realize there's a little bit of confusion. We got a Michelle panelist and we got a Michelle in the comments, both lovely ladies. Michelle in the comments say, replying to you all's point, says that folks are voting because they want to be Trump's friend. They seem to think that that voting for him will make him care about them. He cares for no one. A respectability politic sort of view of it. And Sequoia agrees, saying, for the first time in nearly 30 years, Republicans are running ads on V103. And my grandmother was fit. Do you hear me? So I think that, respectability politics seems to be playing a part, in respectability politics that has a long running history in the Black community and maybe even in the Latinx community as well. One to be, accepted by white America and this belief that, this administration, by supporting it, somehow is going to be somehow beneficial for them. Lapina says this is a false economic, exactly. This is a false American dream. Michelle's going to bed. Be safe out there. Michelle, not our panelist, Michelle.
Michelle Harris. I'll stay up a little longer. You got about another 15 minutes in me.
She says, she's going to bed, but thank y'all so much for joining in. All of our viewers who aren't in the comments, we appreciate y'all hanging on in there with us. I'm going to turn our attention. We mentioned her a little bit, Amy Coney Barrett. All of y'all here are RJ Giants. I wanted to know and talk to the audience about, what her nomination and confirmation I don't think a lot of folks within the distraction has realized she's been confirmed. She's sitting there. And now we have a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court. What does her nomination mean for RJ? And what does it mean for the work that you guys have spent so much time doing and working towards in this community? And what does it mean going forward?
I'm going to say first, I think her winning seat, it doesn't matter that we feel like we won the White House, right? Because that job comes up every 4 years. At this point, every last one of those 9 people are there until they choose to leave or die. So they're there what we would call permanently. So what I think it's on one of those MSNBC shows, I think it's Rachel Maddow who tells you, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Mm-hmm. Because I watched her during the hearing. Anybody with any level of common sense around what that nominations process usually needs to look like is she was lying through the straight, crooked, and the gaps in her teeth, if she has any. I don't know. I never looked at her that closely. She was not being truthful, and neither were the senators who were giving her all of these accolades. And she was not being honestly transparent in terms of how she would represent her view and her opinion in the law, using all of these new euphemisms like originist and all of those other kinds of things. Basically means that I'm going to interpret the Constitution the way my white privilege, anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ, anti-Black, anti-poor, anti-everything, right, that is about progress actually stands for. And so watch what they do, because you've got the Affordable Care Act. So the man just lost, but he's in there for 79 more days. And the lawsuit, the civil court, the administrative lawsuit to dismantle and destroy the Affordable Care Act comes up next. The hearings start next week. There's an LGBTQ equality hearing coming up. There's, now that we've had the legislation that was just voted on by the people, some of the people of Louisiana, around banning abortion for all intents and purposes, that will evidently come up, or at least eventually. Watch what they do, and then you will understand what the meaning of her on that seat. They won't be as much around our elections, because they will, this is what you mean about doing the laws, right, Michelle? Because they will be undermining every piece of court ruling that has meant progress for us over the last 50 to 60 years. Watch.
Well, and I also think yes, we know that abortion is at the top of our list, but we cannot just stay there.
Oh, no.
It's going to be access to contraception. It's going to be making decisions about end-of-life care. It's going to be, like you said, marriage equality. It's also, and if we're talking about access to contraception, it's also going to be about access to in vitro fertilization, which oftentimes we don't think about the impact of access to in vitro fertilization amongst Black women, but it is a huge issue given the rates of infertility amongst Black women, which people don't talk about. And so I think it's everything. And you're right, we need to be watching.
And calling it in and calling it out, right? So we have to be vigilant to the ongoing erosions that are in front of us, not just the ones that are behind us, but the ones that are in front of us, because there are also over 200 judges that have been put in place over the last 4 years that are also sitting poised to possibly never even let it get to, or rapidly advance it to the Supreme Court, that they will get
when you add COVID on into the mix too, I've been thinking about, I was talking to a colleague of ours whose a family member had COVID, and I said, so how do the medical bills get handled? And she said, well, her insurance their insurance will pay for it, but the family will have to figure out how to pull together the money to pay the rest. Something is very wrong about that people have to figure out how to pay medical bills for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think, yeah, Amy Coney Barrett is an issue and we need to be watching, but there is so much more that we have got to be watching for right now in the midst of this pandemic that I'd hate for us to kind of have our attention diverted from the realities of what is going on with, you know, Black, Indigenous, and people of color in this moment.
I mean, I'll just add, because I agree with everything you all said. I think 79 days, so they've already put in close to 300 federal circuit judges. They're going to keep pushing them through. They have the formula right now. They know how important courts are. And so, because courts can impact every part of our lives. That's the thing. I mean, they're looking at next week on the 10th, they'll hear the case for ACA.
Mm-hmm.
COVID is now a pre-existing condition.
Mm-hmm.
People, and that's what they're not saying. People are, you know, they may recover, but they're still going to have recurrent issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's not being publicized. And so, you know, your family member is trying to pay for it right now. They're going to be long-term costs.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is going to impact our lives ongoing. The case you're talking about, you know, with LGBTQ and foster care, you know, should they be allowed foster care? Should LGBTQ people be allowed to take advantage of in vitro fertilization? You know, I mean, it's just, you could just go on and on and on. And so I think where I get stuck is like the way the numbers shake out right now. We couldn't have stopped the confirmation of Barrett if we wanted to, which we did. The continued appointment of circuit court judges, we couldn't stop it right now if we wanted to. And so, you know, it is kind of hard to stay optimistic and engaged. And, you know, like, where do we put our effort without, you know, completely burning ourselves out, burning community out before there's just the fatigue of everything that sets in. Sorry, it's my mood today. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Yeah, I'm with you, Michelle. I get it. No apologies for this. I think it's real analysis on what's real. My question is, so we've seen what happens with the power of the Black women's vote, right? We see that. We can get you in or we can get you out. Just go on over to Alabama and ask Doug Jones. Whoop. And what we've also seen, we already talked about all of the sisters, the BIPOC sisters who have sustained their positions in Congress, right? So what would happen? Because I was on a call, you know, a few months ago where we were talking about a lot around the mobilization and the election outcomes and so forth and so on, expectations. And one young woman just dropped the most salient thing. She says, well, you know, all of this that we're doing, we got to fight, we got to mobilize. She says, we got to get out the vote, because we were talking about voter mobilization among our women. And she says, yeah, because today we vote, but tomorrow we run. So I'm wondering what happens, and I'm hoping that, you know, Glenda and all my folks over at Higher Heights, I know that they're already on this, is if we have an inordinate number of more Black women running for Congress, running for judge seats, judgeships, or whatever you call that, running for court positions, running for Senate, right? Just run until we win. And then we keep, you know, the pipeline open until we take our rightful place to have a voice. And then we can control some things differently than what we have now. Because if you think they're scared of us out here with the vote, What happens when we are actually legally co-equal in the power to affect the law?
Yes, I think really well stated. And as we come to the end of our panel discussion, I want to keep with that high note and just want to ask you ladies what you would say to our audience listening right now, the communities that we serve, and just the greater people who are in this fight with us. Words of encouragement or comfort during this time is very high anxiety producing at the moment. And, I kind of feel that folks are lacking optimism, like we're at some sort of end of the road and we in this fight, right? What words of encouragement do you have for our community and our communities of BIPOC communities and community allies during this time?
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind when you were just talking about the community and the women that and the individuals that I feel very fortunate to be able to say that I'm engaged in even trying to do something that is helpful. But the first thing that came to mind was thank you. I mean, it's remarkable. I think we're feeling down today. It's less than 24 hours, but we see time and time again the resilience, and I think I find it so inspiring and humbling. And so thank you is the first thing that comes to mind. And we will get through this because that's what we do, and we will lead through this as well. And so, let's just hope everyone else just catches up to us before we leave them behind.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle, for that.
Well, I would add on to what you said, Michelle, and to say, don't be discouraged, because the Black women in this movement and the Black women whose shoulders we stand upon have always done the work that their souls must have, and and that there is a power in our practical wisdom, the way that we use it, and our resistance. We've always resisted. We've never been silent victims in our oppression. We've always resisted and fought for human dignity and freedom and liberation. And also that we're resilient, that no matter how many times and how many ways things look bad, we're always resilient. And so I'm counting on our resilience. I don't think that, just because what happened with the election yesterday or however way it may go, I know that we will continue to be resilient. So I would encourage people to draw upon that.
I got me smiling over here.
So I've had to, just through this whole year, come with my own sort of, I don't know, it's not just a meditation or an affirmation, it's actually shifting how I think and how I show up and how I engage. And grace, gratitude, and forgiveness across the board, starting with me for myself, right, is where my strength has to come from. Because without grace, gratitude, and forgiveness, my anger, my not just my anger, but in some ways my hatred and my desire to destroy, really, and I mean just dismantle, destroy, abolish, whatever you want to call it, could actually do more damage than it could do the good that I want to be a part of. So start with the grace, gratitude, and forgiveness, and then build on that with the strength that you have, right? to stay in the fight, wherever that fight is for you and for your people and for your own, and where we can figure out how those intersections meet up so that there's always a way that we are moving together forward, even if we all aren't in the same lane, if you will. And so there is a better way for us. There are better ways in front of us, because there are better days in front of us. And I know it's going to sound like bigger than even the most dramatic, but here's what I also say all the time, and I believe in this, and it may never happen in my lifetime, in the next generations or right beyond, and it just might, because we're going to all realize it one day. Mm-hmm. But we are all a part of the same universe. We are, even the things that set us back, that hurt us, that make us feel horrible, as much as the things that make us powerful and do all the best and the great things, and to bring forth the most amazing lives that we bring forth as people with bodies that can do that, right? There's only one species of people, or people on this planet, who hold that ultimate power, as they say, that Black women are the closest thing to God, right? Because Black women birthed humanity. Mm-hmm. And as the mothers of humanity, it will be women of African descent worldwide who save humanity. But it will not happen until we save ourselves first. And so that's why we have to start first with our own grace, gratitude, and forgiveness. Just like a mama looking out on her rowdy prodigal and ain't gonna do right children, right? We've got to still love them and keep the hope and keep the faith in them, and tap that behind to bring them in and raise them up right. And I'm talking about civilization, raise it up right. So we have this chance to start setting those seeds right here in this country, but we're not going to do it in isolation. So there are different ways in front of us to do this, and there are better days in front of us to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Y'all are wonderful, powerful words from powerful women. I thank y'all so much for taking the time. The people in the comments, thank you. We all thank y'all for joining and watching, and for the work that you ladies do, the folks watching, that y'all are doing at your jobs, in society, and just taking care of yourselves. So we thank you, and we just take this moment to, be uplifted. And I really appreciate y'all, every one of you ladies, for being here tonight. So that wraps it up. It's been a great show. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.